Good morning, everyone. Please be welcome to this opening ceremony of the 80th anniversary of the Inter-American Conference of Social Security. This is, damas y caballeros, ladies and gentlemen, del 80 aniversario de la Conferencia Interamericana de Seguridad Social. And now we have the following authorities that are here with us today. And first of all, Professor Zoe Robledo Aburto, President of the Inter-American Conference of Social Security. We also have with us Professor Alvaro del Arca Hernandez, Secretary General of our Inter-American Conference of Social Security. Also with us we have Dr. Daisy Corrales Diaz, Director of the Inter-American Center of Social Security Studies. Also, we have Professor Martín Alonso Borrego Llorente for Latin America and the Caribbean of the Ministry of Foreign Relations in representation of the Council of Mexico. Also with us, we have Dr. Miguel Malo Serrano, at interim representative of the Pan American Organization, PAHO in Mexico, PAHO. We also have Mrs. Virginia Marlene Garcia Reyes, representative of the sub-region of Mexico and the Latin Caribbean that comes from Cuba in our Inter-American Conference of Social Security. Also, we have Mrs. Marla Milis, representative of the Northern America sub-region and the Anglo-Caribbean coming from Anguilla. And with us, we have of South Cone of Brazil of the Inter-American Conference of Social Security. Then de los países of Portuguese-speaking language that can follow us through Facebook. Now I'll pass the floor. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen that are here with us today and at the headquarters of the Inter-American Conference of Social Security and that are looking at the internet and social media. On May 30th, 1942, the British Army was bombarding for the first time a city of Germany, and only 3 months after, the Allied forces were encountering the Japanese ones in the Pacific Ocean. In the Western Front, the Germans and their allies of the Axis renovate the offensive of the Soviet Union to struggle against Stalingrad. The old world was divided between fire and missiles, and with the explosions, there were very few the ones that heard them. So, in the meantime, here, the called New World in America, instead of bombarding, we were hugging ourselves in order to make commitments towards fraternity and development. Salvador Allende sustained in the first session of the CIS, the true social security cannot be foreseen by local and regional or national systems as complex and efficacious they are. The measures that are effective of social security should be internationally and nationally applied. So that's why today I recognize with a lot of pride and emotion and thrill that those ideas will become a fact. The presence of 83 members of 83 countries in Latin America in this 18th anniversary showed the success of a nation that was born with peace while mankind seemed to be about to be in the ruin. Here in America in the seas, we had the hope in our future. During the first Inter-American Conference of Social Security, held in Santiago de Chile on September 10, 1942, Mexico sent as a representative Ignacio Garcia Telles, the father of Social Security in Mexico. So, he was Secretary of Labor and Social Provision, and after that, the second and best director that the Mexican Institute of Social Security has had in the 79 years of history. So then, they just went to vote the law initiative of the Social Security that not only was approved, but also held by every delegate. And he said, if the conservation and preservation of flora, fauna, and natural resources conform a general imperative, greater, we have to take care of the human patrimony, which is the wealth per excellence of the nations. And that day, dialogue and cooperation among nations for the protection of social security was born. An action of faith, but with the security of reaching successes of committing ourselves as the governments of America with social justice, a constructive work in an era where destruction was felt everywhere. This is why, as a president of the Inter-American Conference of Social Security today, this celebration is so important to think in the 80 years that precede us, but mainly to imagine and to set the basis of the 80 years that are coming for the CIS and the others that will be added up. The same years that in January of next year, the Mexican Institute of Social Security will have that make us brothers in this continuous struggle for welfare and the happiness of our people. 80 years of having born, I think, has intensified the promotion of spaces of reflection, research, dialogue, and international exchange. So today, it's a great organization that adapts to times and attends emergencies like the ones that we have lived in the last 2 years for the pandemic for COVID-19. So we want to ratify that the role of the Social Security will never be of the representation only of one nation. It will never be only the hospitality of being the part or the head, but in a bridge that will encompass the whole America and the conference. And here we agree on the emergency of a social policy of the state to eradicate poverty and to reach the welfare. And we have found support of this multilateral organization. In Mexico, we live an interesting moment, a moment of deep transformation, of refounding also of the relationship of our countries with the countries of the continent. There is a new moment that will be held by the Mexican chancellor in order to turn to the south and stop thinking only on the important interest in the north, but also in our long history that is not limited to share a language or idea of liberty, but to be able to share in this long trip or long task towards progression in Latin America, common destinations, shared destinations towards welfare. This is why when I participate and when we participate in the summit of communities of Latin American and Caribbean states, the President of Mexico, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, stated that this is the moment of finishing with liturgy and to promote the people of America to stop the mistreatment for the option of walking together and work together for the welfare of America and to vulnerate our sovereignty. So this is how we reach these 8 decades of Organization of the Seas, and this is why I want to hug the Secretary General Alvaro Velarca for all the efforts that this encounter will not only be held, but would have this deep content thinking in the future. Congratulations also to the 28 international guests that are here in Mexico. Please be welcome the ministers of social institutions, the ambassadors of Bolivia, Venezuela, El Salvador, Guatemala, Nicaragua, Uruguay, and all the officials of the entities that are here with us today. Let me finish with the quote of a young poet. Hope is charged with future. We are part of the generation that will not be done by silence or by calm. We are facing eternity and it's a crime not to keep on. So this is why I invite you to solve all the duties that are imposed by the solidarity, aware that the social security that we want to establish in order to struggle means to struggle pain, danger, death, and to grow in the service of mankind. So long live the seas and long life to the people of one America as a whole. Thank you so much. A las 8:30. Thank you so much, Professor Zoe Robledo, President of the SIS, for your words. And now we have a moment of memories in the understanding that it has been a long way, as Professor Robledo has mentioned, since the foundation of our conference. And the history of the foundation of SEAS go to the year 1936 when in Santiago de Chile, the members of the International Organization of Labor, we had a conference in La Habana in 1939 where we established the main principles of social security that were ratified. And then in 1940 in Lima, Peru, there was the meeting of the Inter-American Committee of Social Security, and this is the immediate background of the first Inter-American Conference of Social Security in Santiago de Chile in 1942. So at that time, the participants were, for example, the president of the Chilean Republic, Juan Antonio Ríos Morales. On the part of Mexico, we had Ignacio Garcia Telles, Secretary of Labor, also Mr. Oswald Stein of the International Association of Social Security, Amy Schenbaum, Alpres Mayet, and of course also a professor of Social Security, which was Dr. Salvador Allende, and is in this moment where we have a testimonial that is recorded in a video by the Senator Isabel Allende of Chile, also the daughter of Dr. Salvador Allende that held this conference. So if you could be able to project this message of the Senator Isabel Allende, please. September 1942. Good morning. I'm Senator Isabel Allende, and I want to cordially welcome the President of the Inter-American Conference of Social Security and General Director of the National Institute of Social Security, Zoe Robledo Augusto, and Alvaro del Arca, and the officers and representatives of the different governments that today have gathered in Mexico City in the venue of this international organization that held 8 decades of life. My acknowledgement also to all the persons that have made this anniversary possible. I thank for the invitation to address in memory of the first conference that was held here in Santiago de Chile in 1942, from which I was delegate of the country, my father, Salvador Allende. At that time, 20 nations gathered under the same hope to foster the welfare of Social Security among people, a task that has not always been easy in these decades. Our nations have faced the challenge in different ways. Where there coexist in the continent different ways of protection and Social Security, but in spite of the different roads that they have taken, it's alive and stronger than ever, the wish to protect all the families, all the people facing the diseases, accidents, elderly, the loss of life or working ability. Chile has been one of the pioneers countries of Social Security. Here, for the first time in the continent, a legislation to give security of maternity, disease, invalidity, and to protect people independently. Today, we are sure to have in this challenge a new contribution, and we hope also to this health as a universal right in the framework of the social state and for all the citizens. So I thank you for the invitation to this message of solidarity and friendship in all the countries. And I want to say goodbye, repeating the speech of my father, Salvador Allende, that said, health, the ability and welfare of the workers of a Latin American nation is also interesting for other Latin American nations. So we have to agree on the Social Security to keep human capital, the guarantee to integrity, and the Continental Conference. Thank you so much.
These are emotional words of the Senator Isabel Allende, just remembering when this entity or body was constituted. We celebrate the Inter-American Conference on Social Security. Now, today the word is for Professor Martín Alonso Borrego Llorente, General Director for Latin American and the Caribbean of the Secretariat of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Mexico. Thank you. Please go ahead, sir. Thank you. I greet all the members in the panel in the Presidium, and after having heard just the initial words, there's not much left for me to say. I must do this on behalf of the Chancellor's Office of Mr. Marcelo Ebrard. He's betting on a foreign policy where Mexico recovers that margin, in Latin America and the Caribbean, in our region. We have learned to turn back southbound to rescue and relive our institutions that are essential. I'll tell you why are these institutions so important in Latin America, and it's the spirit. They're the spirit of who we are, and it's regional. So I'm thanking Mr. Zoe Robredo as the president of the Inter-American Conference on Social Security. Thank you for being so kind and inviting me, representing the Chancellor. My dear friend, thank you, Alvaro Bellarca. Thank you for being the General Secretary of the SEAS. You're renewing effort to revitalize this entity, this body that has given so much to the region. We thank the ambassadors that are with us today, the Dean of, and many who are constituents. Thank you to the Ambassador of Uruguay, El Salvador, for being present. We greet you all. Thank you for being part of this conference. All of you as members, we're all celebrating 8 decades. It sounds easy. There's a titanic effort driven forward by all of the 83 members of the Inter-American Conference members here. Individually and in a collective way, these members have provided the seeds to strengthen and transform this body. From the Chancellor's office in Mexico, we acknowledge the impact and the great effort that what you've done has achieved to transform thousands of lives, millions of lives since 1942. I like to quote the following woman who was also leading back in 51 the Inter-American Conference that I will quote Eva Perón. When men and women of all nations are mindfully aware of society and have organized each citizenship in each country, in each nation, the ideals of Social Security will have been fulfilled totally. These words made me be very mindful. The spirit of the conference is, in effect, the multilateral activities to improve the inter-American citizenships and communities through social security efforts is clearly needed, and we must work as administrators in social security to improve this in our hemisphere. The well-being of the Latin American people must be translated into a true regional union. That's why we celebrate that irrespective of any ideological or political stance, we have to drive forward inclusive public policies that lead us to these works, which clearly puts it at evidence the importance of this conference. I congratulate the President and the General Secretary of the conference. Thank you for celebrating 80 years of the CEAS with this work days that will impact the whole hemisphere. We'll talk about it being inclusive, pension, gender, and sustainable financial sustainability, amongst other topics. We are sure that Mexico will always be your ally, your partner, trying to improve the well-being of our citizenship at a regional scale. We drive actions forwards to improve the quality and wellness or lifestyle of our people. We have taken actions forwards trying to achieve the objectives of the 2030 agenda, and we must fulfill the objectives of Social Security and drive also public policy to satisfy the needs that each economy has. We work together in the Latin American system economically. We work with CELAC, CELA, and drive forward the protocols that we have to strengthen Social Security agencies. Mexico in this conference must contribute to improve the well-being of America, driving forward the cooperation amongst sister agencies, linking and correlating with other international agencies, Latin American and Caribbean countries who constitute this conference. You must know that I thank you all once again for being part of this Inter-American Conference. We're writing the story to benefit our people. We know that the work of this Inter-American Conference for future years will lead us to drive all our attention to the objectives. We must fight the lack of fairness. We must work at a global scale and impact the hemisphere to develop under balance. Thank you for celebrating 80 years. Let's celebrate many more. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your message. Thank you. And now the word is for Mr. Alvaro bellar Hernandez, General Secretary of the Inter-American Conference on Social Security. General Secretary, please. I hope you're all having a great day. We greet you all. Especially, I'd like to thank all the people who are part of the Presidium. Specifically, I thank Mr. Zoe Robledo, President of the Inter-American Conference on Social Security. Thank you for being part of this. We thank all the members of the government officials that are present. I also congratulate the delegations or representatives of different government agencies that are part of the members of this conference. Thank you for being here remotely. And habeas corpus or face-to-face, thank you for being part of the delegates of the unions of the Mexican Security and Social Security, the leaders of different government agencies and ministries in Mexico. Thank you. We thank the ex-secretaries of the conference for being present. I profoundly thank you. We greet all the special guests who honor us with their presence, and thank you for following the streaming remotely of what's happening in this conference. Thank you all for being part. Now, as we've heard, eight decades ago, at Santiago de Chile, 9 American countries and ILO gathered in that session. They had the first Inter-American Conference session back then, while the rest of the world was impacted by the Second World War. Our president betted on the international dialogue to restitute redress and to strengthen social security agencies to improve the citizenship's life and to improve and boost forward economic development. We were capable since then to constitute the ideals, the principles that give us hope. Our actions were timely when the world needed it the most. Here in America, we were capable of, fighting against warlike tendencies to build better societies. That's what this conference does. That's the spirit of the conference. People or members at the Cs worked in a multilateral way, finding solutions to public problems through the means of state or federal governments. Under the collapse of development, we wanted to continue that development with government actions who were like always paying attention to what's happening to citizenship's rights and analyze what happened at all borders. At Cs, the members acknowledged the rights, international rights, global rights, with a declaration, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 48, and other covenants and agreements or treaties that date back to 66. This enabled us all to achieve the agenda of Inter-American cooperation to foster the creation of the agencies to sustain social security. We broadened the scope of what we've done in a systematic way in different countries. From that first conference, we ratified solutions or sentences with different groups who acknowledged that what we were doing was really difficult. We tried to incorporate peasants, farmers, and other members of the population. We were working towards that path technically. The Social Security efforts broadened its coverage. We went through a major international and national effort to achieve the universal guarantee that our people have for Social Security. There's still gaps that need to be narrowed to guarantee that we all have access under the principle of equality for Social Security benefits. There's still a legal frameworks, provisions, general acts that make it difficult for our people to have access to Social Security. There's vulnerable groups in society that were part of the debate back 80 years ago. We had to debate many things back then and understand the specific needs of each country. And half of the people in the Americas, don't have access to Social Security. That happened back then, but right now we add certain challenges. Technological progress has revolutionized. There's so many apps developed, like Uber, Didi, Rappi apps. We can have new jobs there with different IT systems or platforms. And this innovation has generated new regulations in countries and to protect the people whose income is sustained under these jobs. There's new labor or opportunities that depend on the proper creation of job relations or labor. But with Social Security, there's structures in our families. And there's ways to finally protect under the legal frame to adjust to the different types of families. There's different ways of living or constituting a family. Females are sometimes the head of the household, and there's others ways to constitute families there, as we know today. The challenges that gravitate in this region lead us to think about how to dignify retirement in our aging population without putting at risk public policies or the economics. There is a lot of data that leads us to face all our challenges, and that's what we've done. We're going to be discussing throughout these 3 days at the panel different topics, as I've said. I analyze a program that you have printed in your hands, and health leads us to think out of the box with intensity. The world is not going to stop. It's going to continue transforming. It's demanding. We need new solutions to face new contexts and realities. The only thing that does not change is the need and the craving that we all have to build just societies. Nobody should face things alone, things that affect our health or our capacity to generate an income. I open brackets, and in a moment, we're going to give ourselves room to analyze the historic memoirs of Social Security struggles. You're going to see some clips of Social Security. We want to continue documenting Social Security in all the member states that have participated. What does this mean? Well, precisely what I'm talking about. We know that at this time, in this time contemporarily here, we know that we have to place the rocks to build our infrastructure with modernity, respecting the original elements of the structure. But we want to transmit the right message. 80 years ago, we started working with ideals, with principles that adjust to the ever-changing realities of societies. After celebrating 80 decades, we all know as members that we're trying to find solutions to the challenges. For example, we've established programs or pension schemes with contributions for the seniors. There's different transference schemes for families with kids or other schemes that we have that give us access to services, healthcare services for our people. There's people who depend on others, and they should have access to that. When there's also situations that happen. There's natural disasters. We have to make front to this and acknowledge that there's barriers or challenges that can affect our people's access to Social Security benefits. We must foster feasible solutions to eliminate barriers or challenges in Latin America. It's very important for us to cooperate at an international or global scale, as we discussed in this conference 80 years ago. This international conference was constituted back then, and is contributing ever since with laws, regulations, and technical content to make sure that our citizenships have access to Social Security services. We have platforms to promote the ideals or the guiding principles that give us hope in the future. We have to be realistic, solid, and technical. We want to materialize public policies, legislations that make our people. Our legislation is citizenship-centric. We need to find ways to finance and administrate correctly the agency's activities. This is our calling historically at this conference. And to achieve our objectives, we must work hand in hand with the members that constitute this Inter-American Conference. That's why, because of you, we exist. We have a lot of knowledge and provide technical support and assistance that strengthen Social Security systems in America. And to achieve our objectives, we need your support and cooperation. You have to be completely convinced that international cooperation leads us to solutions to face the problems. And what's very important is that you will always count on the cooperation of this conference. We're an institution that's dedicated a lifetime to serve others. And I thank the presence of all of you members and your participation throughout our full week of work celebrating 80 years of the Inter-American Conference. Without all of you, it would not have been possible for us to celebrate today what this institution has done. And I want to thank all the professionals for your effort. Everything you've done as individuals is of great value. Thank you for working in this conference. Thank you for contributing. And without you, we wouldn't be celebrating 80 years today. I hope you have a great day. Thank you so much. Thank you, General Secretary. Thank you so much. Now we also want Dr. Daisy Corrales to use a word. She's the director of the Inter-American Center in Social Security Studies. Ms. Daisy Fuentes is present with us. She has her highlights. She's been great in her administration in her term, leading this conference. She's about to finish her administration, and we thank you for being the administrator. Thank you, Ms. Corrales, for being such a great contributor. Thank you on behalf of this conference. Thank you so much. I hope you're all having a great day. I greet all the members of the main presidium or the main panel. I thank all of the people who are visiting us, representing different agencies, different bodies, and thank all the members who are part of this conference. You are the operation side or operation branch of things that make our work possible. Thank you for leading us to share what we've done with you today. I want to also mention that I'm here representing the team, a team of Cs. We're a team constituted in this conference under the principle of solidarity. We're thoroughly engaged with all the members of the Inter-American Conference. Now, we want to tell you now that currently, when we analyzed what we're going to do during the 80th celebration of this conference, there's similarities, circumstantial similarities now compared to the moment in which this conference was constituted. We're facing now, in this time, the phenomenons that lead us to be highly analytic at the work tables. We are analyzing Social Security. But I go back to 1942. The people who, discuss certain matters with you prior or before me, we've analyzed decades and decades in the processes that took place. There were changes amidst the relationships in Europe and America. There was a new configuration of things amidst the Industrial Revolution and amidst war. Back then in the ILO, the International Labor Organization, survived what happened back then in that time frame. In that week of September 10th to 16th of 1942 in Santiago, Chile, we celebrated the first session of the Inter-American Conference on Social Security. Back then, the times we lived were times of war, desolation, economic crisis. The American region back then in the 40s had to solve Social Security problems in the continent. And we were analyzing the effort of the states, the economies, and that's what we're struggling with today in this epoch, in this era. We have to build economic partnerships that lead us to fight famine and develop our economics in this region. The Inter-American Conference was constituted amidst that time and those circumstances where we had to cooperate amongst economies. We had to cooperate politically free with respect of our sovereignty. So I give you hope. We have hope to mitigate the suffering of our people, of our citizenship. We have to work together in an era where destruction was something that we all felt back then. Those who participated in the first session of the conference declared 4 solid points that I believe are extremely important, and we must mention them today and be very mindful of these 4 points. There's similarities in the time frame. Amidst the pandemic and back then amidst war, it's very important for us to remember that back then our people declared that societies have to, under the principle of solidarity of all the member states, find the inspiration to abolish misery and dignify our people and provide sufficiency in the means of life. They declared back then the economic technical resources had to be used correctly to satisfy the needs, the existing needs back then, and to protect the greatest number of people of our economies. We declared that the economic objectives back then were not just to consolidate cooperation under the principle of generosity with social order and justice, as I've said. The principle of fairness leads us to, branch out the economics or the budget of the nation. We have to also consider that there's value in what's economical, moral, and physical. We prepared or laid the bricks on the path to sustain other generations, that are in their productive life. That's the sense of Social Security, that protection, an authentic economy that uses budget correctly, respecting the principles, human rights. In this 80 years that we're celebrating, these principles are still in effect. This Inter-American Conference is a venue of great debate in America. Along this long history of this conference, which has been very productive, there's been important moments, historic moments, that have marked history. In '63, a few days before the inauguration of C's, Social Security, the father of Social Security, William Beveridge, passed away. Social Security is the hope for humanity, for our people. We were back then facing a crisis amidst the Second World War, and Social Security was the center. It was at the center to build our societies, planning out the role of society, the state, and other employers, stakeholders were involved in all the areas to provide Social Security as benefits which are given to our population under the principles of solidarity, fairness, universality, and social justice, which lay the bricks and give us the right path to balance out the life of our citizenship. In 2022, we're going over surpassing the crisis, which gives us the opportunity to continue working under the principles that I've mentioned, the guiding principles with strategy and public policy that are citizenship-centric to build the right conditions for our communities. We have to be capable of working and prevent the risks that our societies face, their social security to protect. We catalyze in this conference our history. We renew the processes and train our people. We investigate, we research, and strengthen our activities that strengthen Social Security in general, so we are in compliance with the principle of universality, which the verdict was inspired with. We're inspired with those principles in all the agencies of the continent. We dignify job opportunities, access to health, pension schemes, and other benefits. We're amidst a change. And changes and opportunities. Social Security is a strategy that leads us to powerful well-being in this planet. Let's unite strengths. Let's unite forces in our region and sub-regions. We work for Social Security. From the General Assembly, there's other statutory bodies or in our structure. We celebrate these 80 years, and I truly feel that this is an opportunity. We're facing an opportunity to change. Everything that we're faced, everything's happening for a reason, and it's a global impact. There's a change, and we can flag the change. It's marked. We're living an era amidst an important time of development. We're developing IT, technology, artificial intelligence, and today for having been part of the administration and being part of the 80th year of the CS of this conference. We're here to serve you as a constituted team. We're the branch that operates with the Inter-American Conference. We're in training, providing workshops and research. This is how I want to send this message across. We work for Social Security, and working in this field leads us to apply our brain in correlation with our heart. Let's use that brain and heart together, understanding the human conditions and what our population suffers. We have to strengthen what we do every day. Thank you so much for being part. Thank you so much. Congratulations also, Ms. Corrales. Now, we're going to celebrate the memoirs of the moment in which the Inter-American Conference was constituted. Now, we're going to watch a video message sent to us by the General Secretary of the International Association on Social Security, Mr. Marcelo Caetano. Thank you, sir. Let's stream the video. I feel grateful. I feel very thankful for celebrating the 80th years of the Inter-American Conference on Social Security. Specifically, particularly speaking, Social Security, we know that Social Security plays a crucial role in our societies. Our society has to be inclusive and fair under justice. We share our origin. This conference was constituted in 1927 with the support of the ILO, and this Inter-American Conference was constituted thanks to the ILO efforts 15 years later. It's like a neighbor agency or international body. It's very important for our members of this conference in America to work with another ally that's another. It's an interinstitutional. We have common social protection systems. It's the OIT or LIO who was part of it as a support. We want to continue working together to create the right room for debate, to learn. We want to generate proposals to improve Social Security in America. We congratulate us in this anniversary. We thank every member of the CIS. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And now we'll have a moment that highlights the hope, vision, and innovation of CIS facing the imperative of granting the new generations with a great idea about the importance of Social Security in the daily life of all of us. So, the Secretary General of CIS, Professor Alvaro will present the program Culture of Social Security since Childhood. Please go ahead, Secretary General. We have recognized that it's a central pillar in the comprehensive development of societies, and in this sense, we have as a priority the formulation, implementation, and consolidation of a continental agenda in order to have the values and principles of Social Security toward the schools of our country and to establish the basis of a culture of Social Security in order to contribute in fair society. So we have history of this program, the Declaration of Guatemala 2009, that gathered the international organization's hopes and the conference itself in order to face the different crises of the Social Security through education and culture of Social Security, to the program that was called Social Security for All at that time. This was the starting point for years later. With the support of the Inter-American Development Bank, we could implement this program in Colombia and Port-au-Prince in 2014. So, as an effort in order to materialize and continue with the commitments of this declaration, we elaborate this culture program of Social Security for Childhood. It's a program that, through the awareness of our childhood, will favor the development of Social Security, and with that, the construction of more inclusive societies, healthier and more fair in every person. The program has two components. The first is the elaboration of concepts about Social Security that we're working in Mexico. The second is the field work at schools. As we are developing these materials of education, we will see some examples for childhood and youth. And I want for you to know them since early of the systems of Social Security. I think that is not a secret that it's very difficult that in our countries the people have cleared the dimension of what Social Security is. It's always associated with the medical service and they leave aside the other Social Securities that are very important in the life of people that are not necessarily known. And this affects that there is not an appropriate evaluation of Social Security. So, in this context, we are also elaborating a group of workshops in order to know Social Security to exercise of creativity in the members. We are also working that in the short term we will perform the first pilot of this program in Medellin, which is a city that is well acknowledged for the ability of separation and going ahead. So we hope that we will reach more cities of the continent. So at the end of the first quarter, we will finish 5 books of Social Security for childhood and youth that will talk about different topics of Social Security and the different realities of the population. They will be written in a good language and we want to stimulate the social participation. Today we want to launch this program. We want to awaken the interest in the university and we are here and virtually with the people that are with us and we want to introduce you a small video. I don't know if you have it, please. The program Culture of Social Security since Childhood responds to the development of a continental agenda in order to have the values and principles of Social Security to children and youth in America. In the activities of this program, we have designed informative materials for the use of children at school age. These are 12 postcards that invites you to know the scope of Social Security and the wide range of benefits that helps strengthen the welfare of people. Brief history from the voice of their characters, and it invites us to tour this symbolic place, which is the country that we live at. Every topic opens the door to imaginary home, which is also an area and a way to approach Social Security to daily life. So with this initiative, we want to reach a lot of students that are being formed and that in the future they will have in their hands the possibility of transforming their surrounding. The program Culture of Social Security from Childhood, it's an educational startup in order to contribute with the consolidation of new generations that will avail for inclusive and social security that will enjoy the benefits of Social Security in this cycle of their life, because Social Security wants to tell us about their history and Social Security. Here we went very early from the hospital. My sister had a lot of days with this ailment and she is a little bit sad. I don't know if for pain of for the time that she has to wait. My grandfather goes to the plaza in the afternoon and he commingles with his friends and other friends that gather in order to talk almost always about their pensions, and the day that they collect them is the happiest days of their life. Mrs. Lopez sells tlacoyos in the corner of my home. Every morning she's there, right beside her. She always says empanadas, empanadas, as she was singing before she worked as blue collar worker, and she told us that she came here because there it's very difficult to work and she already is age. I can see it in her hands every time that we purchase. And in my neighborhood, there are big families as mine. We are four children and a baby. And my father says that where six eat, seven eat, because we know that here we will eat everyone. Fortunately, he will receive an eight, and when to have a son is to have a blessing. Thank you so much. And we hope to take this program to the continent. We hope that the membership will be adding up and that we can treat it in each and every country that forms part of this institution. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Secretary General Belarca. And of course, we are summoning and also we invite the authorities that are here with us today from other countries will consider this a very promising possibility in order to perform the pilots in the whole America. So having said that, we'll go now to the conclusion of this opening ceremony with a golden lock. And now we will cut the ribbon of the opening of the space of the historical memory of Social Security in America, a physical space especially conceived for or to describe and highlight the passionate evolution of the struggle for Social Security and the different conquers that have been held during the last decade. So we invite you all to please accompany the president of the Inter-American Conference of Social Security, Professor Zoe Robledo Aburto, and our Secretary General Alvaro Belarca Hernandez, and our authorities to cut the ribbon in the space that's beside this auditorium. So please, if you accompany us in an orderly fashion, and secondly, to reiterate that at 10:30 sharp, is that the first panel of opening of the 8th anniversary of the CIS, a panel that will be highlighted by multilateral action of Social Security, so no one is left behind. So please come back at 10:30 sharp in this same auditorium. Thank you so much, and please go ahead, enjoy this next activity.